remember, we take whatever's outside and we distribute it to every term inside the brackets and we multiply. So coefficient times coefficient, add the exponents if you need to. So negative 2 times x. Awesome. And then negative 2 times negative 5, be careful with that negative negative, becomes positive. This is an equation from 2 days ago. We need to get rid of the 10 first. What's the opposite of adding 10? So on the left, I still have negative 2x. On the right, which brings us to the last step of every single equation that we have solved over the last 3 classes. What do we always do with the coefficient? Killing me, David, killing me. Negative divided by negative. 12 divided by 2. Only step that's different is this piece right here where we got rid of the brackets by distributing. That's why we learned it in Unit 2, was to be able to solve equations. Would you like a spoon?
I like it. No, we don't. Carter, I didn't ask you. Just slurping the yogurt. That's fine. Why do you guys care why?
Just on behalf of all the Here we got brackets on both sides. No worries. We're just going to do the left-hand side first. Distribute that 6 through everything. Oh, hello. And then we do the same thing on the other side. Distribute the 3 through everything. Now I need to move variables onto one side, numbers on the other. So the negative 3y is going to have to come to the left. The 12 is going to have to go to the right. I'm going to do it the short way that I showed you yesterday. If you want to do it step by step in the long way, go ahead. I'm going to have 6y, and if I bring this negative 3y over, what happens to the sign? So we have plus 3y. Remember, anytime you cross over the equal sign, the sign changes. Then I had a 9 already on the left, and when I bring the 12 over, it goes from positive to negative. If you're like, you want to do that in 2 steps, feel free to do it in 2 steps. No, not at all. Now we're just going to simplify. On the left, I've got 6y and 3y, and if I combine those together, how many y's? And then I've got 9 minus 12, negative 3. And now the last step of every equation we've done for the last 3 classes is always to divide by the coefficient.
It's all numbers.
Not to a mathematician. Now just be careful here. Sometimes your brain will want to put negative 3, but that 9 is on the bottom, so we have to reduce it. What can we divide both the top and bottom by? So the top becomes negative 1, bottom becomes... Oh, that does not sound good. Questions so far? I think you might. I would be bailing from that corner back there.
Let's get a 6 suit, like one of those, like... Yeah, the birthday little suits where I can't move my arms, and I'm just like this. Yeah, I can't breathe. Anyone else with oxygen for the rest of the day?
So I'm just going to show a little trick to the non-visual people. If you're not a visual learner, this can look overwhelming because there's so much stuff. There's brackets everywhere. So I'm just going to take just a scrap piece of paper, or Post-it in this case, and just cover the left-hand side. So sometimes if you're not visual, just covering it helps your brain kind of remember a little bit. So this is just a question from Unit 2 where we're just going to distribute. So 2 times 5x and 2 times negative 6. And then I'm going to cover the left, and I'm just going to worry about the right. Now I'm going to only distribute that -2. What about that 4 that's hanging around at the back? He's just going to stay there. So it's only the -2 I'm multiplying. So -2 times 3x. And a -2 times a -2. And then I still have this +4 that was just hanging around there in the back. Yeah, I'm going to simplify the next step, but absolutely, you could do that. Now I'm going to simplify this 4 times 4, so I'm going to leave everything else the same. 4 times 4. Try again. 4 plus 4. Just making sure you're paying attention. The -6x is going to come over, and the 12 is going to go over to the other side. I'm going to do this one in 2 steps because I did the last one in 1 step. If you want to do it in 1 step, you do it in 1 step. What's the opposite of subtracting 6x?
Adding 6x.
So I've got to combine those x's. I have 6 of them and 10 of them. How many do I have now?
16x.
Now the 12's got to go over. What's your -12? What's the opposite of subtracting 12? So 16x equals 20. Okay, again, if you like the 1-step method from last question, great. If you like the 2-step, great. Do whatever you want. The last step of every question, of every equation we've ever solved is getting rid of the
Coefficient.
yes. Divide by?
16.
Can I divide 20 by 16 evenly?
No.
Can I reduce it?
Yes.
What can I reduce both 20 and 16 by? By 4. 20 divided by 4?
5.
16 divided by 4? Final answer. Show me your thumb. How are we doing so far? I'm getting it. I'm kind of getting it. I'm not going to put it really high so I can see it. Good. Let's do one with decimals. You might want to grab your calculators. Or do it without, but I wouldn't do it without. What is step 1? What do we do first? Get rid of the brackets. How do we get rid of the brackets? Sorry? Yeah, we can go to 1 decimal point. Well, we'll see how many there are when we multiply. So what's -0.4 times x? That you can't do in your calculator because there's an x. Perfect. On your calc, -0.4 times 3.2. Offer of -1.28. Is it 1.28 then finished? So let's keep both of those because there's only 2. Then the other side is the 0.9 I'm distributing, so 0.9 times 2. And 0.9 times 1.2. That sounded confirmed since it was said at the exact same time. Now what? Rory, put it away, please. Oh. Okay. What do we do now? X is onto and the constants onto the other. So the 1.8x has to come over. The -1.28 has to go over to the right. No, usually we put the x's on the left, but mathematically it doesn't matter. If you took the x's over, that's fine. I'm going to do the short way. If you like the long way, do the long way. I'm going to keep the -0.4x. What happens to positive 1.8x when it comes over? Then on the right, I had 1.08. What happens to -1.28 when it goes over? -0.4x, -1.8x. How many x's do we have? Almost.
Oh, -2.2.
On the other side, I have 1.08 and 1.28. That sounds confirmed, 2.36. What is the last step of every question of every equation that we have done? And what is the coefficient? And it's just the 2 that's repeating? The 7 and 2 that's repeating? Just looking for confirmation? 7, 2, 7, 2, 7, 2, 7, 2, 7, 2, to infinity. Questions so far? Number 5, turn and talk. Describe the error, so write it in words, and then correct it, so give me the correct solution. Turn and talk. What's his mistake, or her mistake, or their mistake, or the mistake?
Instead of subtract 1 in the second row, it should be times, or subtract 5. Multiply.
So how can we explain that? He forgot, they forgot, it forgot, she forgot.
The person forgot.
2.
Multiply the 5 by the 1, or the 1 by the 5. Negative 1.
So what should the second line be?
5x minus 5.
Now what?
Now you move the 3x to the other side, minus 3x.
Minus 3x.
5 minus 9, or 9 minus 5.
Oop, negative 9. But then the plus 5.
2x equals negative 2, or no, negative 4. 5 by 2. 5 by 2.
Who got it? X equals negative 2. High five someone with their hand up, please. Very good, fair enough. I'll high five you. The word problems. Read number 6. Don't overthink it. Just read it. Don't worry about it. Just a problem in a book. Blah, blah, blah. What is it about? Temperatures. Okay, let's pick out what do we need to know. Do we care it's February?
No.
Do I care it's White Horse?
No.
Do you get the joke? Little math teacher humor there for you, but a unicorn's not a horse. Yeah. What do we care about?
That is minus 13.2.
And we need a word. We need the word average.
Low temperature is 18, negative 18. What is? It was a high temperature.
I might be out of paper. I'll do it on the back. I'm grabbing my red pen. You need to know how to find an average. How do we find an average temperature? How do you find the average of anything? Add them all together and then divide by the number of numbers. So this, we're going to take the high and add the low, and we don't have a medium. We have a high and a low, that's it. And divide by 2. Why by 2? Because there's only 2 things. Okay, so let's fill in what we know. Do we have the average temperature? What is it?
Negative 13.2 degrees.
Do we have the high temperature? Okay, so when we don't have something, what do we call it? Do we have the low temperature? Okay, solving equations. What do we do? Ooh, be careful, careful. We start the furthest away from x. So what's the opposite of dividing by 2?
Multiplying by 2.
Why you do what? Because what's the opposite of dividing? Because we're trying to isolate the x, so we have to get rid of these two numbers. And we always do the opposite operation. Offer for the left-hand side.
Negative 26.4.
Confirmation. What's on the right? Oh, careful, because that 2 canceled. Right, that was the point. Minus 18.1. So I'm just going to make a note. Canceled.
Yeah, 18.1 to both sides. Negative 34.5. Oh no, sorry, 30. It's going to be positive.
We've just had like 5 answers in 30 seconds. So negative 26.4 plus 18.1. Some units. Why did I suddenly move the x to the other side? Doesn't matter. And again, mathematicians always put the variable on the left, so I actually can't help it because it's habit. If you had the x on the left and the negative 8.3 on the left, that's fine. It's just the way my brain works. Number 7. What do we need to know?
Perimeter 24.8 centimeters, and what is the value of x?
It's another keyword we need to know.
Value.
Regular. What does a regular whatever? Rectangle, square, pentagon.
All sides, yeah.
Why is that important here?
Because all the sides are equal. So we know. 5 by 5.
So if this guy in the bottom is x minus 4, what's the guy on the left?
X minus 4.
And the next side.
X minus 4.
And the next side. And the next side. So that's the way with shapes that we say everything is equal. We put equal tick marks. So how many sides do we have?
5.
So 5 times
X minus 4.
has to equal
24.8.
step number 1.
Get rid of the brackets.
5 times x.
5x.
Why? Offer of 8.96, looking for confirmation.
Yeah, 8.96. Yeah, 96 centimeters.
Put it on my desk, please. Units?
Centimeters.
Questions? First person in each row, grab the number of peeps in your row. Not grab them, count them. That was weird.